everyone. So today we don't really have much to discuss even in these two articles, but since they were discussing about important issues, so we have decided to take them up. The first article is from the Hindu, which is titled as "The Purpose of a Vaccine." So basically, the Pfizer vaccine has been given an okay or good to go sign from US. So what are the expectations that we have from a good vaccine, and we'll be discussing in this article. And the second article is from the Indian Express, which is titled as Consent for Contempt, which again talks about the contempt of court issue and what are the various laws associated with it and what is the latest issue we'll be discussing in here. And thirdly, we have the News and Flash column, wherein we'll be discussing the small and crisp news points that are more important for our prelims exam. So, if you're also preparing for Judicial Services examination, you can have a look at the Lord of the courses, which is Law Seeko's Judiciary Test Prep course. The link to this course is available in the description box below. And from the very landing page, you can also download free study material for your own preparation. Also, the PDF of this discussion or the slides is now available on our Telegram group, and the link of that group is also available in the description box, along with our WhatsApp and Facebook group, wherein we share important information and notes as well. With this, let's see what is the multiple choice question for the day. The Infosys Prize 2020 in Physical Sciences was awarded to, or it has been awarded to, firstly, Arindam Ghosh, second, Raj Chetty, third, Avni Doshi, or fourth, none of the above. So this is the descriptive question for the day. What ethical principles should we adopt for the local distribution, or to be more specific, for equitable local distribution of the COVID vaccine? So once we are done with today's article, you'll definitely be able to answer this question. With this, let's see that what is the first article for the day, which talks about purpose of a vaccine. So recently, it was UK has recently approved Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. So now we know that a vaccine would be coming to our rescue. So there are a lot of purposes that we are expecting to be resolved by this particular vaccine. So the first purpose is to develop immunity by producing antibodies. So this would actually safeguard oneself from the disease. So basically, the purpose of a vaccine is twofold. If we see it from a broader aspect, the first one is on the individualistic side, and the other is on the societal side. So if we talk about the benefits that a particular vaccine would give to an individual, would be that obviously that one individual would be made immune from any kind of virus of COVID-19, and it would actually help to develop antibodies within that individual. So firstly, on the individual side, it would help in developing the immunity by producing the antibodies, and this would actually generate huge demand as this is the individualistic need. And also, what here is required is that because in the absence of government intervention, the vaccine will be available only to the ones who can afford them. Now, this is a very, harsh reality of our society. For example, there is something that is very, scarcely available in the society. For example, let's take the example of water. So the households or the people or individuals that are affluent or that can actually afford various kinds of resources, they get it very easily because they can pay in a better manner. They can negotiate, or they are in the better position to negotiate with the government or the other authorities concerned. But on the other hand, the poor people do not have the adequate resources, and thus they have to travel miles to get some bit of water as well. In the similar context, we can understand that if not, the government would intervene and make sure that the vaccine is equitably and equally distributed amongst all the people, all the individuals. It would only become a resource that is available to the people who can afford them, and the people who cannot afford them, but obviously they also need them, would be devoid of this very vaccine, and that is why government intervention is highly desirable. And then, if we talk about the societal role that the vaccine is expected to play, is to achieve herd immunity. Now, the question of herd immunity has every now and then been in news, that whether or not the people of particular area of particular city or country have developed the herd immunity against COVID-19. Now, the seroprevalence or the serological survey that have been taking place every now and then have tried to solve this question. So by herd immunity, we mean that, for example, there are 100 people in a particular city. Now, a considerable number of these people have already been through, the COVID-19 virus and have recovered and now have the antibodies, or in a way they have gotten the vaccines and now they have developed the antibodies against the virus. Now in such a scenario, it is considered that the entire herd or the entire group of this population has become immune, and that is why there would be very less chances of transferring of this COVID virus from one person to another. This situation is considered to be as herd immunity. Now obviously when we talk about a group of only 100 people, it is definitely very easy to achieve the scenario of herd immunity. But when we talk about a population of 130 crore people, so that in that scenario it is obviously not easy to develop herd immunity. But yes, after we have had a vaccine, it is desirable that this vaccine is strong enough to develop the portion of herd immunity amongst the people. So it is desired that the vaccine would be able to achieve herd immunity in a population by ensuring a threshold coverage. Now, this threshold coverage is exactly the number which I said, that after once this number of people have this number of people have developed the antibodies, then it would be considered that the threshold has been crossed. Like for example, if we have a population of 100 people, so maybe when 75 or 80 people have already developed the antibodies, it would be considered as the threshold coverage. So it is estimated to be around 60% of the population, or just as we said. So for example, we can take if 100 people are there, so 60 people have already developed the antibodies. So we can say that we have developed herd immunity after covering this threshold coverage in this particular population of 100 people. And then there are other concerns also regarding the efficacy of the or the efficiency of the vaccines, because it is very much desirable that the vaccine should be such which really is efficient against the COVID-19 virus. Now, here are a few factors that we need to keep in consideration, or the factors that actually are to be treated very carefully while the distribution of vaccine is taking place. First of all, the economical factor, obviously. So it is very much required that the vaccine is pocket friendly. Now, what is the use of a vaccine that a person who needs it but cannot afford it? So that is why it is very much desirable that the vaccine is pocket friendly, and also that the government makes sure that the people who cannot afford that particular price of a vaccine, now for example, if this vaccine is for 250 rupees per person, and a person who does not have any money at all and has for example 8 people in his family, so obviously he will not be able to afford the vaccine in the first place. And that is why it would be the duty of the government to distribute the vaccines equitably. Now it has to be done, maybe it can be subsidized in some manner, or maybe it would be provided for free. Definitely that is a question that the government has to take in the later stages of the distribution of vaccine. And then the other factor is the social factor, like how the society will be treating the coming up of vaccine, and also treating each other and the members of the society. So there are various social factors also associated to it. Then we have the ethical factors, like who should be prioritized. Now see, for example, let's say that we have this huge population, like as huge as that of India, and obviously there are certain limitations to the number of vaccines that can be developed at one particular time. So obviously the process can continue and more vaccines can be developed with time, but initially there will be some limited number of people, limited number of vaccines, and that is why they would only be possible to be made available to a limited number of people. Now in such a situation, it is very much important to analyze as to who would be the people, or who would be the line of the population that would be given the vaccines in the first place. So as many a times discussions have been made, that obviously the frontline fighters like the doctors, the police officials, the nurses, security agents, security guards, etc., they should be given the vaccines, because they are the ones who are interacting the most with the people and are at the forefront of this war against COVID-19. And then later, maybe the people who are at their old age and suffering with comorbidities like any kind of diabetes, asthma, or heart ailments, who are more prone to the effect of COVID-19. And then maybe the other women who are older women. So maybe yes, we have a complete a list of people prioritized after one after another, but still there can be many ethical issues that can arise through this as well. Then the goal of herd immunity will be lost if specific population group is targeted. So obviously, if we target that, yes, only and only these people would be given the vaccines and none other than them, then obviously we'll never be able to achieve the question that we are talking about of the herd immunity. And then there are other systematic factors as well, like the projected proportion of population that may face adverse reactions. Now see, Obviously, when the vaccines are approved by the international bodies like WHO and other concerned authorities, so they look into every kind of factor that is associated with the vaccine or any kind of allergy that might take place. But still, there is a chance, that is, we cannot really deny that a particular vaccine can never ever have any adverse effect or any kind of reaction. Now, in such a situation, we have to understand and make sure that are we really equipped to tackle with that reaction or any kind of allergy that might fall out due to this vaccine. So that also has to be considered, keeping our health systems in our mind. With this, let's discuss the second article for the day, which talks about the consent for contempt. So recently, the Attorney General of India, K.K. Venugopal, granted consent to initiate criminal contempt of court proceeding against comic illustrator Rachita Taneja for her tweets and illustrations. Now, the very thing that we'll be discussing in here as to how and in what situations can the Attorney General of India initiate, and how the consent of the Attorney General is required to initiate the criminal contempt proceeding against any individual. So here, let's see that what are the criminal contempt against, what is the procedure or the entire provisions for the criminal contempt against an individual. So according to the Contempt of Courts Act 1971, so Article 15 of it provides that who may initiate or who may give the consent to the initiation to the process of the criminal contempt of proceeding: Attorney General or the Solicitor General and the Advocate General of the High Court. So if you talk about the Supreme Court, so in the case of Supreme Court, it could be the Attorney General or the Solicitor General. And in the case of High Courts, it could be the Advocate General. And then any other person after the writing consent of Attorney General or Advocate General. So if there is any other person, in that case, the written consent of the Attorney General or Advocate General is required. Now, why does Attorney General have to consent? So basically, this is the trickiest part that we need to know, that basically it is done to save the time of the court, because many a times there are many frivolous or hollow petitions that are brought into the court, and if at all the court would be considering each and every petition for criminal contempt, so in such a situation a lot of time would be, a valuable time would be wasted of the court. And that is why the Attorney General is empowered to keep an eye on such cases, and once he consents that this case is to be moved for the criminal contempt, only then the cognizance is taken by the court, and the Attorney General is deemed to be an officer of the court. So this is something that we need to know. Now, this is the Article 129 that we need to consider. The Supreme Court shall be a court of record and shall have all the powers of such a court, including the power to punish for contempt of itself. So Article 129 provides for this power to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court can take suo motu cognizance, like in the case of Prashant Bhushan, and the case is required under the Act to be heard by at least 2 judges. So this is something that we need to know. And as we know that contempt is of 2 kinds, civil and criminal. So civil is like when you have not really relied or you have not fulfilled any duty, any decree, direction or order, writ or any kind of process of the court, you have disobeyed it. And in criminal, when you have tried to make any kind of publication by word, spoken or written, that can actually defame or scandalizes or prejudices it interferes the administration of justice. So these 2 types of contempt should also be kept in mind. With this, let's see what do we have for news in flash today. So we have winners of the Infosys Prize 2020. So the Infosys Science Foundation announced the winners for 2020 under 6 categories. So for engineering, these names should be recalled by you. For engineering, we have Hari Balakrishnan. So he has been awarded from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Then for humanities, we have Prachi Deshpande from Center for Studies in Social Sciences, Kolkata. Basically, the names are more important rather than the institutions they belong to. Then for life sciences, we have Rajan Shankaranarayan. Then for mathematical sciences, Saurav Chatterjee. Physical sciences, Arindam Ghosh. And social sciences, we have Raj Chetty. So he's from Harvard. So these names should be remembered by you. So this was all for today. We hope it was a good and informative session for you all. Thank you so much.